Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Graduate Ambitions podcast and our Lunchtime live session. Today we are going to be focusing on selection process outcomes, so thinking about both positive and perhaps what may be seen as negative outcomes, so where you are going to be perhaps successful in being offered a job, or where you've been unsuccessful and you've been rejected for a job. And I know that we've got quite a lot of questions around about this topic. I know that it's something that is very close to a lot of people's hearts at the moment, as they're waiting to hear outcomes for jobs that they have attended processes for. And so if you are joining us live, then please feel free to submit your questions in the message box on the screen. And we do, as I said, have some questions that have been submitted to us online previously. If you are wanting to get more information and guidance and support from us at Graduate Ambitions, then make sure that you like, subscribe and sign up for the notifications on all of the podcasts in the future. So click whatever button that is on whatever platform you're listening to us on. And yes, Anya is as always with me today. So how are you doing, Anya, after your long bank holiday weekend?
Yes, it was lovely, thank you. How are you?
Aha,
Can you hear me?
I cannot hear Anya. 2 seconds. Wait till we see what's going on. I can hear you now.
Yes, hello.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's just me.
Yes, my bank holiday was lovely, thank you. How was yours?
Yeah, good. It was nice to see some sunshine.
Yes.
Get out and about a bit, take the dog out. Fully switch off. I felt like I had 4 days out that I really needed, and I hadn't realised I needed quite so much. So, it just goes to show that, we all definitely need to look after ourselves and our well-being.
Yeah,
Very
definitely.
much enjoyed that.
Yeah, step back is always beneficial, even if you don't realise that you need one.
Yeah, I know. And I kept thinking, this weekend feels like a proper long weekend because your weekend normally goes so quickly before you know it, it's Sunday night. And on Saturday I was like, oh my goodness, I've still got another 2 days, this is so good.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
But yes, we have, as I said, we've got quite a few questions today already, so why don't we kick
Yeah.
off?
Yeah, selection process outcomes. Definitely something that causes a lot of nerves and sort of confidence issues, I think. I remember when I was waiting back to hear from loads of jobs, it's so sort of there's lots of anxiety around it because you have no idea what they're thinking, if they've even seen your application, and a lot of companies don't even bother to reply, which makes it so much worse. And it's a whole confidence thing. You really lose a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this first question goes with that a bit. And they say, I'm applying to lots of different jobs and my applications keep getting rejected. What can I do to get to the next stage? That's sort of the same confidence thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is hard, especially when you either don't hear back or you get very little feedback when it comes to application stage, generally. Um, but to be getting a number of rejections just at that stage, it can, as you said, it can impact your confidence. It can make you think you're doing something wrong. What I would say is it can be really easy as a graduate to just think, I need a job. I just need to get a job, any job, it doesn't matter what that is. And as a result, sometimes either your desperation or your kind of lack of being specific with your application and being really quite generic with it can go against you. And so what I would suggest is take take some time, take a week or so where you really focus on thinking about what it is you really want for your job role. We've got some tools on our free tools and resources hub, and on the job search section of that can really help you to hone in and focus on exactly what it is you want from a job and what you're willing to compromise on. There will be occasions where you just need a job to get an income, and that is okay. But even when you're applying for those jobs, you need to be able to put across why you're the best person for that job, and what makes you passionate about applying for that job role. And that's hard to do when you're not passionate about it. So you really need to go through some thinking. What is it that you want? What is it that could appeal to you? About different types of jobs. What can resonate with you? And then when you are doing your application, make sure it's very tailored, and make sure that you connect yourself and align with the job description and the company. If you don't have that, if it is just, I'm looking for a job, it's going to come across and it's going to be like, well, we've had 500 applications from people who just want a job, and we've got 100 applications from people who really want to work here. So those 100 people are the 100 people that's going to get a second review of their CV, or perhaps through to the next stage. So don't get despondent if this is you, if you've had lots of rejections. It's just time to get really focused, really think through what is it that you want, what is it that you're compromising on, and how can you still connect to the jobs that you're applying to, even if that isn't your dream job. And as I said, that is harder to do, because employers are looking for somebody who perhaps there is going to be some longevity, or there's people are looking to start a career with them, rather than somebody who might come in the door, be there for a year, but move on to something else. So you don't want that to come across as this is just a stepping stone. So I will put the link below to the resources that I'm talking about in the description of this podcast. And so have a look at them to really help your thinking process. And reach out to us for a free call, as well. We can certainly take you through some advice on how to approach that for your particular circumstances. So yeah.
And I guess it really only takes one yes, doesn't it? Out of all of those no's, out of all of those rejections, it only takes one yes to then for you then to get that job. And do you think if you're in like a rut and you're getting all of these rejection letters back, do you think taking a step back is beneficial, or do you think just keep going, keep trying?
I think taking a step back is the most beneficial thing to do. Taking some time to change your mindset, because actually when you are in a position where you've had lots of rejections, it can be really easy to see that this is personal to you, and actually it's not personal to you. All these companies have seen is a 2-page A4 document that perhaps isn't showcasing you in the best way possible. They don't know you personally, and so certainly at this application stage, take that step back. Do some exercises that can really help with your mindset. Put yourself in situations where you're doing things that you do enjoy, or ask people for feedback on your strengths, things that you do really well. Start to get some ways of being able to boost your confidence again. And think about what it is you really want from that job role, and how you align to it. All of the positive aspects that you've got to bring to a job, because each time you get that kind of, sorry, you've been unsuccessful and you don't know why, you start to make these assumptions in your heads about the reasons why. that is really something that is quite detrimental to your motivation and your confidence around about job searches and applying for jobs. So try to take that step back, find positive aspects that you can focus on about yourself and about your job search, and keep focused on the fact that this isn't about you personally, because people don't know you yet. It's about getting your story across so that you can get to the next stages, and that's what you can start to focus on.
Yeah, I think it is really difficult to not take the rejections personally. I know that I always struggled with that. I always took rejections personally, but you're right. They don't know you. They've only seen your CV, or they've only seen your application, and it's really not personal. But what about
Yeah.
the people who've had a couple interviews, been unsuccessful, and the feedback they've got is just that there were better candidates? How can they improve for next time if they don't even know what they're doing wrong?
uh, it's a bit of a pet peeve of mine. And don't get me wrong, when I was recruiting graduates, certainly when it was maybe 10 years ago, around about that timeline, that was the feedback you gave to people. Sorry, you've been unsuccessful. There have been better
Yeah,
candidates, because companies were reluctant to put themselves on the line and say specifically why people had not been successful, because they didn't want to be getting any kind of pressure, or any kind of, I suppose in the US there is quite a big culture of people being taken to court for damage to reputation and things. And so companies kind of steered away from that, and this was the kind of party line that they were towing. Now, the kind of environment and expectations of candidates and also companies have changed since then. Certainly in the last kind of 3-4 years, even pre-COVID, there was a lot more pressure, I would say, on companies to be given actually constructive and valuable feedback to candidates, regardless of the volume of candidates they were receiving applications from or seeing at interview stage. And I think that pressure is growing, because there is a big well-being aspect in terms of the feedback that people receive from selection processes, and how it does impact confidence and motivation for future processes. So there's a lot more pressure on companies now to give that valuable and constructive feedback. If you don't receive that, I would reach out and ask for it. Drop an email and say, I attended this process, this interview, this assessment centre, whatever it might have been, and say to them, I spent quite a bit of time preparing for this, and invested time and energy in it, and I would like to understand, where perhaps I could improve for the future. There's ways of wording things. There's ways of making sure that you're not, it's not that you're demanding, it's not that you're asking for something out of the ordinary, and it's not that you're trying to challenge their decision. You just want to understand it a bit more, to help you for the future. Now, for the most part, companies will come back and respond to those emails that they get. They'll either send you that in writing, or they might say, let's have a 10 or 15-minute call. Because for them also, there's less people requesting in that style than there is if they just offer it to every single candidate. So ideally, they should reach out to you to get that. Now, if you don't get it, there's two things I would recommend. One is think about your own I suppose, experience when you went through that process. Be very honest with yourself. What do you think you did well? What do you think you could have done better? Now, the closer you can do that to the time of the actual process itself, the better, because you've got the recency effect, so you'll remember things accurately rather than the next day, the next week, or a month later. But so the more recent to the timeline of the process you can do that, the better. But think back and be honest with yourself. As I said, think what went well, what didn't. Write that down. And then on the things that went well, please congratulate yourself. Be like, yeah, I did do well there. That's really good. And for the things that you think, maybe I could have worded that better, or I could have given a better example, well, that's what you can then take to a next process. You can have a better example in your head. You can prepare your responses ahead of time, practice a bit more. So there's that aspect. And then the next thing is just to move on from it. If you haven't heard, if you haven't had any good feedback that helps you prepare for the future, move on, because I imagine that that's probably not the employer you would want to work with. That's somebody who isn't going to support you or think about you just because you were unsuccessful. So don't dwell on it. There's nothing you can do about it. Just make the decision to go, well, that didn't go my way, and so now I need to focus on the future. I'm making another opportunity actually go my way and be successful at it. Put your energy into the future and not focusing on the past. So that's the advice I would give around about that.
Yeah, I saw some advice on, I think it was LinkedIn the other day, and it was saying put every rejection down as it was just practice. And I think that's really good advice actually, because it can just be just practice for the one that you do get.
It
And
is.
I like that advice.
Yep, good advice.
Yeah, what about going back to those companies that just have the interview and don't respond? We've got a person here who's been in the exact same situation as that, and they asked, should they chase up for a response, or should they just sort of move on?
I would reach out for a response initially, because there might be reasons why they haven't come back as quickly. Ideally, when you go through any selection process, or even as you apply, there should be a timeline attached to that. That's good practice, that someone should say, we'll get back to you by such and such a date to confirm the outcome of this stage. Now, if they haven't done that, there may be things that have impacted on that. There could be changes within the business. It could be that someone perhaps even has left the business or changed role within the business that meant that tasks haven't been carried out as they should be. It could be impacted by sickness or holidays. Not ideal. None of that's ideal, but these things do happen. So I would encourage you to, certainly reach out and say, I attended this process on whatever date. I was told I would hear by whenever, whether that's like 2 weeks later, and now it's been a month, and can you please provide me with an update? And then they should get back to you. If you fail to hear again, then perhaps it is time to move on. And as I said, like, not dwell on it. That's not the right opportunity for you. But if they do come back to you and say, listen, we're really sorry, we're still making decisions, or there's been this happened or that happened, and they should perhaps give you another timeline of when they'll come back to you, then that can obviously help.
Yeah, yeah. And with getting rejections, often people start beating themselves up. And I've got a question here. And they said, I went to an assessment centre recently, and I know myself, I could have done better, but this has really impacted my confidence for another process I have coming up, how can I make sure I don't repeat the same mistakes again?
Yeah. And again, it is really hard when you put so much time, effort, and energy into preparing for these events, and sometimes, you know, for whatever reason, you don't perform at your best on the day. You know, we're not always on our A game every moment of every single day of our lives, and as much as there these are like kind of opportunities you want to do your best at, there's a lot coming your way. There's a lot of uncertainty still about it, no matter how much you prepare. Um, there's like the other people that are involved in the process, whether that's the assessors, other candidates, or whatever that you take into consideration. Um, and sometimes the questions are worded in a way that you just weren't expecting. And so it takes you a bit of time in your head to think about, how do I want to respond to that? So one, I would say, don't beat yourself up too much. You know, this is just another experience that you can learn from, you know, that you can see as this was a practice shot for the next time round and for the future, to be successful at. Um, so take some time, I would say again, to you already have obviously done some reflection. You've already thought, yeah, these are the areas I can do better on. So don't dwell on the fact that that's happened. Just think about, right, well, if I could do better on that, what would it be that I would do differently? And play out that scenario in your head where you do it differently, because then that will become a more positive, reinforcing kind of vision almost, compared to thinking back on what actually happened. You can't do anything about what's already happened. It's done, it's dusted, you know, so move on from it, and think about, right, if I was asked this question again, or if I was in that scenario again, this is what I would do, and picture yourself doing it. And then from there, just build that into your practice, um, and give yourself, as I said, a bit of a break. You know, take some time again to think about all the positive things, think about the things that did go well in that situation, think about all of the good examples you have got, think about why you've been invited to this next selection process that you're talking about. You know, what is it that you've said in your CV? How is it that you align to the job description? What is it about you that makes you the best candidate? Think about all of these positive things, so that boosts your confidence, that helps you to see that you are the right person. And yeah, just go in there and try your best. That's all you can do. And try your best in a way that means that you don't need to be perfect. You know, just be yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, being yeah, you definitely be yourself, because you really can see through someone trying too hard to be something that they're not, can't you?
Yeah. And I think there is that aspect as well, that if you haven't done well in a process, you might think again, oh, this is about me, and I'm not right. Um, and so you might try to change yourself in some way or come across differently, and that's not the answer at all. It just means that actually in that one situation, you know, whether it was down to your performance or not, that wasn't the right job role for you for whatever reason. And actually this next one coming up could very well be the best job for you, and the right thing for you. So it's about focusing on that, and what you've got to give, rather than, as I said, focusing on what's already passed that you can't change.
Yeah. And what about those who, I'm not sure how common this is, but what if they attend their, say, assessment centre, and they felt like their accommodations weren't quite met, and they felt like there was definitely some disadvantages that they couldn't really get over, and they felt like the whole thing wasn't quite fair. and their outcome sort of mirrored that, are they able to sort of try again, sort of talk to them about it, talk to the company and say, look, I think this would have been easier for me and I think I would have done so much better. Can we try again? Is that something that is an option?
I would definitely raise that with a company, especially if you have had discussions with them up front, or even told them on the day, this is my situation, these are the accommodations that I need, and that company has said, yes, we'll provide you with accommodations. If you don't feel that those accommodations made that process equitable for you, then you should definitely raise that. One, because there may be that opportunity for you to go back and have another kind of have another goal, have another take on it, be able to perhaps take part in another interview where the accommodations are there, or whatever the process was, but also because this could help future candidates in similar situations as well, so that that company isn't making the same mistakes again and again. And in all seriousness, that really shouldn't be your job to do that. But I think any company would be shocked to find a candidate that was their experience.
Yeah.
That what they thought was the right accommodations wasn't, and that a candidate felt they had been treated unfairly. Um, you know, there's certainly kind of more official routes you can take if you feel really aggrieved by that. But in the first instance, definitely reach out to the company, explain that this was what you required, but actually what you received was this. Explain the impact that had on you and your performance, and why you feel that was detrimental to you as a candidate, and ask them to review that situation, ask them to come back to you with an outcome on that review, and also ask if there is an opportunity for you to have a second opportunity to go through the process again. All of that is fair, for you to ask and for you to expect. So, yes, if you still feel that's a company you want to work with, then definitely do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And on a sort of a happier note, for those who have been successful, there's this person here, and they've been successful in two processes and offered jobs with both companies, and they don't know which one to take. How could they decide?
That's really hard. Um, and congratulations, first of all, that you're in this situation. And it does happen, actually, like quite often. Companies offer jobs, and the candidate says, sorry, I've got something else. And that's always a bit of a blow to the company when that happens. But yeah, I can really personally kind of resonate with this situation, because I've been in a situation before where I've had two opportunities and both have been good, and I've thought, I don't know which one to take. And I remember somebody saying to me, you just have to go with your gut instinct, because there's no sliding doors moment. Now, Sliding Doors is a 1990s film. So some of you out there may never have heard of that. You've probably heard the reference Sliding Doors. And it's basically, that there's no opportunity for you to know, if you take one job role over the other, how the other route would have gone. You're never going to know. So again, what I would say is weigh up the two options that you've got in front of you. Write it down. What do you think are the positives about each job role, and what are the negatives that you can see? What are you going to be compromising on, if anything, for any of these job roles? It could be that for one you need to relocate, for another you don't, or for one that, you know, you might have a slightly different salary than the other, you know. So go through and think about, right, these are all the things that I would like in my ideal job. These are all the positive things in this job and the positive things in the other. These are the negatives. This is what I'm having to compromise on. And really think through how you could live with some of those compromises or live with some of the negative aspects. Are the positive aspects of the job roles enough to, you know, balance that out? And then go back and think about, how did I feel actually when I went into that organisation, whether that was virtually or in person? How did I connect with the people that were involved in that process? What made me want to apply for that job in the first place? What was it about that company that made me think, yeah, that's worth applying to? And really think that through, because essentially you're the only person that can make the decision, and it's a decision that you're going to need to live with. So just take a bit of time to get very, I would say, into the details of why you connected with the role in the first place, and as I said, what that job can offer you, and what you need to compromise on, because these are real things that can make a difference to you, especially not so much in the first few weeks when you're kind of on a high and you're just starting a job, but over time, if there's things you've got to compromise on, these are the things that you might go, actually, yeah, that wouldn't be worth it. So yeah, that's my advice around about weighing up your two options. But best of luck in whatever one you decide to go with.
Yeah, I think it's quite a nice problem to have. Like it's still a dilemma. That it's an important decision, and
It,
it's important to know which one would be best for you in the long run, really.
yeah, yeah, it is, and that aspect of understanding what drew you to the job in the first place. You know, what was it that made you passionate about it, versus how much you have to compromise, is really the kind of big thing, I would say, to help you see what the right path is going to be for you.
Yeah. Last question from me. Time's gone very quickly. They've said, I've been offered a job on a graduate program and was really excited at first, but now I'm starting to get nervous and I'm anxious about what to expect when I join the company. How can I get over this?
Yeah, and we hear this a lot, you know, because your goal is to get that job offer, you know, and for the most part, students and graduates don't think past that moment when you get the offer and you're like, yes, that's it, job done, I'm there, it's secured, I don't need to worry about it anymore. And then, yeah, reality does hit, because then you're thinking about, right, okay, what is this job actually going to be like, and what are the people going to be like, and how much support will I get, and what happens if I've got lots of questions, and am I actually going to fit in there? Am I going to like the job? These are all things that are kind of running through people's heads, and it can be like a build up of anxiety around about it, especially when a lot of the time for these graduate roles, you've got a few months between when you are offered the position to when you actually start. Um, you know, and so this all kind of builds up in your head. What I would say is that for a lot of companies, especially where you've got that timeline, you know, where it's a few months before you start, that they will have some activities to help you with understanding some of those expectations for joining their organisation. They call these keep warm or onboarding activities, even. Um, and so there might be opportunities for you to have regular calls with someone who might be your line manager, or someone who's previously been on a similar role or on a graduate program. And so these are good opportunities for you to just kind of ask all the questions you've got that are running through your head. And don't be afraid to ask these questions, because, you know, they'll be similar to questions that anybody would have before starting a job role. There's no stupid questions. If you're thinking it, the chances are somebody else has thought it previously or is currently thinking it. So they'll want to share as much information with you so that when you come into the organisation, you've got a good understanding about what to expect for your job role. You know who the people are that you can contact for support. You've already got like a kind of network there that's a bit ready-made that you can rely on and trust. So take advantage of those. If that's not suggested to you, then reach out and say, can I meet my line manager for a coffee beforehand, whether that's virtually or in person. Take time to plan out, what is my commute going to be. Ask questions that you might have around about remote working or getting equipment. Think about what the specific things are that are making you anxious, and ask the questions around about them to reduce that anxiety. But the reality of it is, this is a change for you, and any change will stir up these emotions of uncertainty, anxiety, even fear to a certain degree. And the best way to get over those aspects of change is to get the information you need to take the anxiety, the fear, and the uncertainty away and make it become known to you. There's also the aspect that this is the next step in your life, in your career, and so it is going to stretch you outside of your comfort zone. And that's something that will happen to you quite often in your career as you try different tasks, move into different job roles, move companies. All of this will be feelings that you will have again and again. And these are feelings not to be dismissed, and they are feelings not to get overly worried about because they're very natural. You're not the only person who's going to experience them. And it's about getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. It's about understanding, actually, for a few weeks, I'm going to feel a bit unsettled, but I know to expect that. So, because things will be unfamiliar. So, during that period of time, just be thinking, yeah, I am a bit uncomfortable about this because I don't know absolutely everything. But over time, that discomfort will get less and less. So, they're my tips around about that. Get comfortable with the uncomfortable and ask all the questions you need to remove some of the uncertainty around about the period of change that you're going through. And that will really help your transition from university into the workplace.
Yeah, some great questions and some great advice, I think, today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some really good questions in there, and I think certainly questions that other listeners will resonate with.
Yeah.
So yes, and yeah, I do know that this is the time for a lot of students where outcomes are being decided. So yes, as I said, make sure you like, subscribe, and click on for notifications on whatever platform you're listening to us on for more advice. As I said, I will put in the description below all of the details of the free resources that can help you think about jobs to apply for, but can also help you similarly, once you've actually got an outcome, can help you really weigh up which of these jobs you want to accept. There's also some resources on there for redirecting your rejections as they come in, and making sure you can stay motivated and positive and confident in your own job search. So take a bit of time to look at them, as well as there's some really good well-being exercises and tips on our free tools and resources that can be really good support mechanisms as you are going through this process of having to be focusing on selection processes, applications, and dealing with the outcomes of those. But yes, as always, if you have any questions at all, you can come on to our live sessions and ask them live, or you can submit them to graduates at strategicambitions.com. We're live every second Tuesday at 12:30. And so we look forward to, speaking to you all on our next episode.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye.